that is Lake Tahoe. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to urge prompt action on a matter that could make life a lot more difficult for millions of people in this country. And that is the expiration of tax credits that could lead to a massive increase in health care costs. We're talking about 22 million Americans who will be directly affected, some of them seeing thousands and thousands of dollars in increases in their health care costs. That's something that a lot of these folks simply cannot afford. So that is the reality of what will happen if Congress does nothing, if Congress fails to act. Because that is not acceptable to me, and I know it's not acceptable to a lot of members on both sides of the aisle, I've introduced legislation with Sam Liccardo, a bipartisan bill called the Fix-It Act, which will stop this cliff from occurring, which will spare these Americans this massive increase in health care costs. Here's what it does. It says, let's extend these tax credits for a temporary period of time, for 2 years. That will give us the runway that we need to work on a broader solution to the health care affordability crisis in America without forcing millions of Americans to pay the price in the meantime. Now, importantly, our bill not only provides this temporary extension, but it also includes reforms that pay for themselves. In other words, the savings that we get through our reforms are actually greater than the cost of the extension itself. This is according to the Center for a Responsible Federal Budget that analyzed several proposals that are out there and found that the bill that Sam Liccardo and I have introduced is the only one that actually does not increase the deficit and indeed actually achieves savings for taxpayers. We do this with sensible cost controls, income caps, to make sure that the tax credits goes to those who truly need it. So you'll still be eligible as long as you're a family of four up to an income level of $192,000. It also includes strong anti-fraud measures that will save billions from the fraud that we know is far too pervasive in this program. It enacts reforms to a program called Medicare Advantage that are supported by the AARP because we've seen insurers have been overcharging in this program to the tune of tens of billions of dollars over the course of a decade. So all of those elements not only actually make it so we're not increasing the deficit or having to raise taxes or increase spending with this extension, but they also make the extension inherently temporary in the sense that if you have a pay-for like we do, then any extension, you'll have to find another pay-for that will entail additional trade-offs. So that is a accountability measure to make sure this doesn't become just a never-ending series of extensions, but truly is temporary. So there are a growing number of members in both parties. We just had a press conference who understand what is at stake here. Not just, by the way, for 22 million Americans who will be directly impacted, who utilize the individual market and benefit from these tax credits, but if you see millions of people who ultimately choose not to get insurance, who drop out of the market, that's going to cascade to the employer-provided market as well. And so people are going to see increased costs there as well. So when we talk about affordability, which is so important to so many people in this country right now, there is perhaps no single policy issue that will have a higher impact on affordability in this country than doing something about this issue right now. And for my colleagues on the Republican side, I would simply point out this, that when you look at the 22 million Americans who will be most directly impacted, a lot of these folks are people that Republicans have been fighting for a long time. For example, independent contractors, freelancers, gig workers, Uber drivers. They have been under attack from the likes of Gavin Newsom and the corrupt political class in Sacramento, who have targeted them, who have made it very difficult for them to practice their profession. The Biden administration actually brought in Newsom's labor secretary, Julie Su, to try to do the same thing, targeting independent contractors on a national level. Well, they are the folks who will perhaps suffer most if these tax credits expire, because they rely on that individual market and they don't really have any other option. And so they'll be forced to pay thousands and thousands of dollars more when their income is already uncertain. We simply can't let that happen. Or small businesses, small business owners, their employees who rely on the individual market. This will absolutely be devastating to many of them if they're forced to shoulder this cost. Early retirees who are not yet eligible for Medicare, millions of them rely on these tax credits. So that is why I believe that doing nothing is not an option. And I have made no secret of the fact that I think the House of Representatives has been missing in action in a lot of ways in recent months. The House was literally not here for a period of almost 2 months. The Speaker inexplicably canceled session for 6 consecutive weeks. The House has not been in the driver's seat when it comes to many important policy issues facing the country. The House has even chosen to cede some of its own legislative authority on certain issues. This is extremely troubling to me. I have been encouraging a change of course, and this issue right now, which is a matter of urgency, which needs to be dealt with before the end of the year, is an opportunity for the House to change course, to reclaim its legislative authority, to actually drive policy in the right way, to become the people's House again by actually serving the American people in a way that will make a profound difference in the lives of many of them throughout the country.